Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Agents of MACE. Today we are talking about the much anticipated Moon Knight. It's finally here. The first episode is out. We were talking a little bit about it before the show started, that we were surprised that we only got one episode. But at the same time, that's fine with me. As a content creator who depends on this content lasting a while, it's nice. But as a viewer, it was kind of like, oh man, I was really hoping to get to watch two. But I guess as we dive into this episode, let's do first thoughts, because this was very different from anything else we've gotten so far.
Definitely. I think as the nature of most of these, it's just I've got questions. It is basically I'm intrigued and I've got questions.
How about you, Elisa?
I enjoyed it more than I was expecting to. I wasn't expecting to not enjoy it, but it had a greater sense of fun than I was anticipating. And I think that the reason why I liked it as well as I did is because I feel like they're aping Edgar Wright just a little bit. But that's good with me. Go for it. I like that kind of stuff. So first thoughts, positive toward Moon Knight. I'm excited to discuss it with you too.
My first thoughts are similar. I really enjoyed it. I thought that there were a couple weak moments, but it was only weak because the CG just wasn't great. Which is interesting because in all of these shows so far, the CG has been like relatively close to movie quality, if not movie quality. So there were just a couple moments in this that were like, they fell short. But then there were other moments that were like, I mean, yeah, that could have been in a Marvel movie and I would have bought it. So CG aside, as far as like the story goes, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was very different. It was almost like watching a horror rather than like a comic book movie.
More so near the end.
Yes.
It was hitting on that note.
So I'm excited to see where it goes and what happens to everybody here. Only because we'll get into it, but the main character was not someone that I was familiar with. Having only, again, I've read two different Moon Knight series now, and neither one of them did the main character ring a bell. So it was later revealed in the episode, the characters that I knew. So I was like, oh, okay, so maybe this is like either it's based on a story I haven't read, or it's maybe something new for this version of Moon Knight. I don't know. So before we get too far ahead ourselves, we'll jump into the beginning of the episode. So we get, first of all, the open, which, ouch, why would you do that? We basically get who we don't know who he is early on, but it's Arthur Harrow. Mm-hmm. And we get him doing sort of like a weird ceremony with a glass of water, and then he crushes it, and then he pours it in his shoes, and then he walks away with it in his shoes. Interesting. It is never brought back up again. So
we're it's
we
like
just have to assume he's cruising in those shoes for the rest of the show.
Yeah, even later on, that's just kind of what's in your mind. It's like, is he still just walking around with glass in his shoes?
Yeah, is the glass still there? Or I mean, they were like open sandals at the back. You would assume that the glass would have like made its way out eventually.
Right.
Is this why his steps are so
accurate? Probably. Or
he's never running after Oscars.
Or it's even like, I was curious to see how far they could take it, because, like, I mean, look, reality is like you're stepping on all that glass, like you're bottom of your foot's going to be cut open and bleeding. So I was wondering if they're going to do anything with like a pathway of essentially his blood, but
Mm-hmm.
we never got into anything like that level.
Yeah. Yet. I
Yet,
mean, because I was expecting that too. Like as he was walking away, I kept looking at where he was walking to see, like, oh, is there going to be like
especially
blood
because
coming out?
because like the next moment he's walking through the crowd and
Mm-hmm.
everyone basically wants to touch him, right? So it's like I
Mm-hmm.
almost was expecting like, is he going to leave a trail and these people are just like going to follow him?
Mm-hmm. So,
It's not an important detail, but something I noticed about the shoes is that they are super comfy. They just are. So I'm not really sure what that is unless they're just like, okay, I need you all to focus on the shoes and not for anything positive. We're filling them with glass and they look like something that your oldest, most deranged uncle is going to wear to the beach.
yeah, that I feel like that's the vibe they were going for.
Yep.
Just like creepy dude with creepy sandals full of glass.
Oh.
Well, after we see weird glass shoes, we go and we see Stephen Grant, who, funny and a quick shout out, because I think he listens to this podcast. I have a friend named Stephen Grant, and so when he said his name, I was like, "Hey, I know Stephen Grant." Anyway, sidetracked. But we get Stephen Grant, who has, like, in a way that didn't really make sense to me, um, put an ankle brace or restraint on and tied it to a bike lock to a bedpost and then surrounded his bed with a sand circle so he can see, I guess, if he was taken or if he
Mm-hmm.
walked away. But the ease at which he takes the ankle restraint off just makes me feel like, why do you think that you wouldn't do that whenever you were possessed, or if someone was stealing you, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
he thinks is going on? I feel like that ankle restraint isn't quite enough. I mean, it's
Yeah.
later revealed that yes, it is not quite
Yeah,
enough at
clearly
all. But
that's one of those 100%. Like it's just kind of like that's just too easy. Like this is
Mhm.
a scenario where like he needs to have like the one person he actually trusts that has to help him with this to ensure like he's not going anywhere.
Right. We also see his fish, Gus, the one fin wonder. Uh,
AKA Nemo.
yes, I 100% was like, is this a Nemo reference? And then later it's just said
They
out
flat out
loud.
say it. Yeah.
Yes, and I was like, oh, okay. So got it. I did see somebody post something about Gus being the new addition to the Pet Avengers, which is funny, but then Gus is different later on without
Right.
getting into too much detail. So I don't know about that theory there. Um, but basically, Steven goes to work. He calls and leaves a voice message with his mom, and he goes to work. He works at the Smithsonian, I believe. Or is, yeah. Or is he the one that works? No, it's not the Natural History Museum. It's Egypt. So it'd have to be the Smithsonian, or unless it's just some Egypt museum that's not a real thing.
Does England have a Smithsonian?
Yes. They have a actually a large Egypt exhibit in their Smithsonian. If I remember. A humble brag, I have been there. It didn't look anything like it does in the show, and I didn't see any scary monsters. But his boss Donna is the worst. I made sure to write a note of that. She's just rude and doesn't like him. So I'm wondering if that will come back later, or if she's just like comic relief when he's at work.
Who
But we
knows?
do. I
Um,
mean, we
she is
kind
a
of find out
she's a
later some stuff.
character in the comics. So I'm curious if she'll kind of have like this dual role persona.
Mm.
Um, so she first appeared in Mark Spector Moon Knight issue 39, and she was Mark's publicist at Spectre Corp, which is a
Okay.
company that Steven funds to basically, he uses that company to fund his Moon Knight operations.
Gotcha.
I'm curious about how they have everybody react to Oscar Isaac's character in this. Because, like, we do get the sense that he's a little bit, awkward and nerdy, but everybody is just so ridiculously dismissive of him. What I put in my notes is, why is everyone acting like Oscar Isaac is an ugly dweeb? And he is. But another thing is, I kind of think maybe Oscar Isaac, as great as he is, and I do think he's doing a good job with this role, he's a very, very good actor. I think he might be a little bit miscast. Because I buy him more as Mark, not to get too far ahead of ourselves, than I do as Steven. And he also feels like he might be a little bit older. Like, not that there's anything wrong with casting older people, because obviously there's not. But if this is going to be somebody who feels very much like they're just starting out, working at a gift shop, trying to work their way up the ladder at this museum because they have an interest in history, I think that it would have made more sense to cast younger.
I would agree, except I have a theory to bring up once we get a little bit further in the story that I think may explain that. Because I thought that too. I was like, he's working at this gift shop, and it seems like he's been there for a long time.
Yeah, because he's like wants to be a basically a guide, like a tour guide. Because the whole like opening, he's just like Wikipedia, like he's just spitting out like all this information, and it's just constantly like, I know you want to be a tour guide, but you're not going to be a tour guide. You're going to work here and do inventory, so suck it up and deal with it.
He did fully endear himself to me whenever he pointed out a historical inaccuracy in the promotional poster. I was like, that's my boy. I do love you, Steve.
It's like, look, I don't mean to like knock the marketing, but this is wrong.
So there are a ton of like nods or inclinations to show us as viewers that there is a split personality going on. We get it a couple times early on, but not very like in your face. I think one of the more in your face ones for me was when he's talking to the human statue. Because in the comics, that's how he converses with Khonshu. Is that he has like basically he has a statue, like a Moon Knight statue, and that's where the god resides, and that's how he Mark speaks with the god. So I was like, oh, is this like a nod to that he speaks to the statue in the comics? So I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And then I feel like all of a sudden his sleep thing doesn't work, and he wakes up in another country, and we don't know if it's a dream, we don't know if it's real. This is kind of where I will shove my theory, because it kind of fits in here, because he leaves a second voicemail for his mom, and on his wall he's like pinning up the postcards that his mom sends. If you look at those postcards, they very closely resemble, and I believe a few match, the postcards that are on display at the museum.
Yep.
So I think that Mark is the original owner of this body. And when Khonshu came in, it split Mark's personalities, so there's like a bunch of personalities going on, which I think is kind of what explains like the posters that we've seen with the different versions. And I think that to keep himself safe, maybe, or to like hide his identity from people, he's taken on this role of Stephen Grant. And is convincing the Stephen Grant personality or whatever that like he's living a normal life. So that's why he's like sending himself postcards basically,
Mm-hmm.
pretending to be his mom. So that's my big early on theory, for who his mom is.
I'd say that's probably spot on. The question though is like, who's he actually calling on the phone, right? Is it even anything?
Mm-hmm.
Or is it just like, I don't know. Can you call and leave yourself a voicemail? I don't know. Yeah.
Well, we know that he finds a phone
Mm-hmm.
coming up, so it's
Yeah.
possible that he just has like a burner phone
Yeah.
locked in a box somewhere, and that's where all the messages are going.
Yeah. Yeah. That like that whole, yeah, that's a little bit later on. We'll get there. The statue guy, it seems like that's another comic reference. It's potentially Bertrand Crawley, who is in the Moon Knight comics. He's a homeless person, but he basically is an informant to Mark.
Mm-hmm.
So he just keeps them in the loop of what's going on.
So I wonder if that will come up later in this season, since like he never broke the entire time that he was the human statue. So
it's impressive. I don't know. This is one of those like, is this just going to be like a little nod to the comics, or will this become something bigger, like something more regular that we see?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a big chase. Well, I guess before we get to the chase, he wakes up. Some people are shooting at him. He has a scarab that's just in his pocket, and he's not really sure where it came from. He gets to the town. In the town is where we see Arthur make his way through the crowd. Some people come over. He rolls up his sleeves. He does a little ritual, and he has some scales on his arm. And the scales rotate back and forth. And then they say basically whether you're going to be a good person or a bad person. And if you're a good person, you're good. If you're a bad person, he sucks the life out of you. I don't know. We don't. She just died, but we don't really know how.
What is? Yeah, like what was all that? What is he doing?
Yeah. So the way that he explains it later made sense. I mean, he's a villain, but I was like, oh, okay, I understand what he's trying to do now. But it's weird to me that he like came to this town, stays in this giant castle in this town, and tests everybody in the town. Mm-hmm. I feel like that wouldn't last long. Like the town was not that big. I assume you would have tested everybody within a couple months, and then what does he like go to another town?
Yeah, because like he just shows up later at the end, right? So
yeah. So there's plot hole.
It's just like, who is this? I mean, all we know is that his name's Arthur and he likes pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At this point, yes, and he's got a creepy two-headed alligator staff, and
and clearly he has like
killed somebody,
minions, because like all these people have like the tattoo, right? So it's almost in a way I'm thinking of like Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like you have like all these people like band together for certain reasoning.
Yeah, it's like a cult. He's like a
basically
cult
yeah.
I was getting big time Hail Hydra.
Oh yeah, yeah, exactly.
Well, so basically what happens is Stephen confronts him. He tries to give...
He's basically forced to.
Yeah, he tries to give the amulet back, or the scarab back, but his body refuses to let him. He's like hearing voices telling him no, calling him an idiot, things like that. Then he blacks out. And when he wakes up, there are a bunch of people dead around him. And you hear the voices again. He has to run away. He steals an ice cream, or not ice cream, a cupcake truck. for a pretty exciting chase. This is where the CG got a little slippy It wasn't great. There's a part where a guy is standing, somehow riding on the front of a car, leaps off the front of the car into the back of the cupcake van, and it looks bad. It does not look good at all. I don't know what happened there. I don't know if that was like a quick reshoot or something. I don't know. It didn't look great. The car chase was fun though. Lots of nonsense explosions and cars getting destroyed. Throughout the drive, he blacks out a couple times, and whenever he wakes up, he has killed somebody or destroyed something. So we're really starting to see like, oh, these aren't just like different personalities. They're like completely different people almost taking over his body. But we don't really know who at this point. We just hear two voices every now and then. So he blacks out one last time and wakes up, and he's in his bed again. And he's like, everything's cool. I'm back home. He goes and checks on Gus. All of a sudden, Gus has two fins. He finds a hole in the wall, and in it is a cell phone with a key. We never figure out what the key is for.
Yeah, I want to rewatch that scene to just look at the symbol because it's connected to something that's got a symbol on it. I'm not really sure what it's for.
Well, he opens the phone and is like flipping through, and it's just a bunch of missed calls from Layla. The only thing I've seen about Layla is that it may be a reference to, and I can't remember her name, I didn't write it down, but his like love interest in the comics, whose name isn't Layla, but this may be who that is.
I'm pretty sure. May Callumway?
I think so, yeah.
I don't know if that's the actress cast to play Layla or if that's the actual like comic name.
Maybe the actress. I don't know. But we also see another name in there, which is another nod to the comic, and somebody that I hope maybe shows up in this series, Ducamp. In the comic, he is John Paul Ducamp, and Mark calls him Frenchie. They fight in the war together, and Frenchie basically becomes like Q for Moon Knight.
Oh, that's cool.
I think like early on Moon Knight didn't have mystical powers. It was just like Batman, except he was moon themed, and Frenchie was like his, not Alfred, but what's the guy that like makes all this stuff for Batman?
Lucius?
For like James Bond.
Yeah.
Oh, like Lucius.
Yeah, Lucius.
Okay.
Yeah, that's basically what he is. He's like
Gotcha.
the gadget guy. He makes all
that's
the
cool.
gadgets. So I really hope that maybe he shows up in some sense and we get all the cool gadgets. Although I feel like this is leaning a lot heavier on the like mystical side, so I don't know that he will use gadgets per se.
Maybe that's future season. Who knows?
Yeah.
Whole new series called Frenchie.
This is the first time that we do get to see him kind of deal with his other personalities. Mark talks to him through a mirror. It scares him. All the lights start to flicker. Steven runs into the hall. This is that scene that I was telling you guys that I saw, where he like gets in the elevator and the giant bird head monster, who is Khonshu, how do you pronounce it?
Khonshu.
Yeah, it is interesting here to note. So Stephen Grant is he knows nothing. Mark is Moon Knight, and Khonshu is the god of the moon, vengeance, and travelers, which seem like three very different things, but sure, if you want to cover all those, go for it, Khonshu. So we get to see Mark kind of talk to him, but obviously Mark looks just like him. Later we see Khonshu like coming to talk to him or to get him or something, and it's terrifying. The only upside to this terrifying scene is I don't know if anybody saw it, but there's a little Ghost Rider sticker in the elevator.
Oh no, I missed it.
I don't know if it's actually supposed to be Ghost Rider, but it's a little skull and there's
Okay.
flames all around it. So I was like, ooh, because we kind of talked about this, that I think Ghost Rider would fit in very well with this like weird mystical
Yeah.
demon vampire world that I think they're going to shove Moon Knight. So,
Which I don't even know if I feel like we've talked about it. I've never seen Ghost Rider, like the Nick Cage movies.
oh,
And there are two of them, right?
yes, there are.
Yeah,
Wait,
I've
you
never.
haven't seen them either, Elisa?
No.
Oh my gosh, what are we doing? Why haven't we done a watch of those? Man, all right.
All right.
Well,
Are they streaming?
they were for a while. I don't know if they.
I don't know if they are now, but who knows? They get picked up anyway.
Is it one of those DVDs you can't get anywhere?
Yeah, because everyone's like, no, I'm not going to sell that.
Let's poll the listener. Should we squeeze in reviews for Knight Rider? Yes or no? Let us know.
What is this?
Or what is it called? Ghost Rider? I don't
Ghost
know.
Rider.
Ghost Rider.
I
Knight
can't remember
Rider.
what the second one is. Spirit of
Both,
Vengeance or something.
both. Let's just do them both.
Let's just watch both.
Yeah,
Let's just
yeah.
do them all.
Yeah.
Kit
I
Harington.
don't know how many
I
I've
see
seen
There
on
we
the
Knight Rider.
relation. Well, he basically is like running away. He gets in a bus. He's trying to go to work. He sees Arthur Harrow on the bus. He's like, oh my God, this is all real. This is all happening. He runs into work. Then he has to stay late to do inventory. So that's kind of, we fast forward through a couple things. But this is where the story breaks open, basically. And oh my gosh, things are happening. There are about 150 moments where you're like, we get it. He has split personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't have to keep shoving it in our face. I understand. But they are cool shots. It's just they lose their effect when they do them one after the other. But we see him stand in front of a couple like glass cases, and his reflection move differently than he. There's one where he is like turning. There's a statue with like half of its face gone, and you're like, he's gonna walk behind that statue and it's gonna line up with his face, right? And sure enough, it does. But this is kind of the like creepy, scary, paranormal part. He's hearing like this howling and this all these like, I'll just say it, jackal noises in the museum, basically. And he gets attacked by, I don't know if it's supposed to be Anubis or if it's just like a jackal monster.
Yeah, that was never really fully explained.
Yeah. But he gets
It was
attacked by a
CGI
giant.
creepy
Yeah,
thing.
it was
Yeah,
CGI creepy
exactly, yeah.
thing.
He's running away, and he basically just keeps hearing Mark tell him like,
Just let me
hey,
take
you
over.
gotta,
Let me take
yeah,
over.
let me take over. And it is cool. You get to see like there's all these like hieroglyphics and stuff that appear on the bathroom wall when he's locked in the bathroom. Finally, he says, "Sure, you can take over, save us, whatever." And the monster finally breaks into the bathroom, and then we don't really see what happens. But then we see the monster trying to like claw its way out of the bathroom and get dragged back in. So now it's like, oh, so Moon Knight's like no joke. Like this monster is scared of Moon Knight. So, and then we get to see him in all his Moon Knight glory. He kills the monster and turns towards the camera, and that's the end of the episode. I am so excited to see where this goes. I was not expecting it to be this early on that we get to see him like fight a monster.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, we just kind of see he's like
we see the end. Yeah.
he's basically just going Batman on it, just like beating it to a pulp.
But yeah, that
There was like one moment I was just like, I bet you we won't even get to see him as Moon Knight in this.
See, that's what I thought too. And when it showed the like, I don't know, the wraps or whatever start to form around Steven when he's like transforming into Mark, I was like, we're not going to see it. We're going to hear it, but we're not going to see it. And then no, they just showed. They were like, yeah, here he is, Moon Knight. And I was like, oh, all right,
Yep.
cool.
Which some of these effects and stuff were really interesting because like how he basically turns into Moon Knight. There's a new film out called The Cursed, which is like a monster film. It's very similar effect. Like really interesting why they chose to do that.
Yeah, I want to know, like, now that well, I guess we'll find out next week, obviously, but now that he has, like, maybe this is the first time that he let Mark fully take over. And so that's why he was able to, like, don his Moon Knight apparel.
Maybe.
Because it seemed like that took a second. So I can't imagine that earlier when he was being like held down by a bunch of goons and he blacked out, or when he was driving the car and he blacked out, that it wasn't like immediate that somebody took over. Instead it was like, nah, he's got to like levitate for a second and transform, and like that just seems like a lot to do every time. So
yeah,
maybe this was just the first time that Mark was allowed to fully take over and be Moon Knight.
Yeah. And now we just have questions.
Yeah. I do have a question. Well, more of a, no, it's a question to see what you guys think. So we kind of skipped over when Arthur confronts Stephen in the museum, but when that happens, Arthur kind of explains why he's doing what he's doing, which is to basically, like, he worships Amit, yeah,
something like that.
Who is like, it's like a god that's made up of the like 3 most dangerous animals in Egypt at the time, and she lives by the scales of, not justice, I don't know what they are, the scales of life and death or something, but that's basically like his whole gimmick is, if Emmett was alive this whole time, then we wouldn't have had Hitler, we wouldn't have had like these big genocides, because all of those people would have been killed, because that's her whole thing, is that she knows everything you've done and everything you will do, so she knows immediately whether you're a good or bad person.
Yeah.
So during this speech, he explains how the gods were basically in charge, and at some point humans turned away from the gods. Now, big question. Do you think the time that humans turned away from the gods is the time that Apocalypse came? And Apocalypse was a mutant, so all the people were like, you're really powerful and you're just a person, so we should follow you instead of these gods that like may or may not exist. And maybe this is our first X-Men thing.
It's an Oscar Isaac Inception,
right?
Yeah. So
it begins and ends with
I
Oscar
want to
Isaac.
know. I want to know if we think that there will be any reference to that. I assume we're going to get the gods in this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm assuming that Arthur is an avatar for Amit, sort of like Stephen and Mark are avatars for Khonshu. So are we going to get this like crazy god battle between Amit and Khonshu, or
Episode 6?
Yeah. So I don't know. That was like my big uh-oh moment. It was like, uh-oh, are we gonna get X-Men stuff finally in this Moon Knight
So
show?
maybe through I guess like film Twitter and like all the people that have gotten to see like the 4 episodes, there's been one common phrase for one episode. I can share it now. It's not a spoiler in any way, if you want me to.
Yeah.
Basically,
Let's hear it.
everyone has said equally that episode 4 will blow your minds. So now that we're talking about
Oh.
this, makes me wonder, like, could it dive into our first X-Men related things, or could it be Blade? Could it be another character that makes an appearance? My guess right now is the next 2 episodes will be backstory episodes. We'll probably have one episode focused on Arthur and kind of like where he started and how he got to where he is, and then we'll get another one that's following Mark and kind of leads to where he gets, and then episode 4 it's just going to start going bonkers.
What if it's that thing to where, like, with the Norse gods in the MCU, they explain, I don't know, they're not really gods, they're just an advanced civilization and they visited Earth and they made up stories. What if the Egyptian gods in this continuity are just old mutants like Apocalypse?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see why not. I think that's one of the things that I liked. One of the only things that I liked about the Apocalypse movie was like this kind of leaning towards like, oh yeah, the Egyptian gods were actually mutants, and it was like, oh, that's cool. Okay, I buy that. So, I mean, maybe that is what's going on here, and they just sort of got old, and so people stopped following them. Maybe that's why. I don't know. I
think we need the whole Avatar thing explained a little bit further. Which is another fun reference. Blue People. Yeah. I love that movie.
Or the anime. Yeah.
Or yeah,
and I was like,
I was surprised the anime got brought up as well. Yeah, I think like the 2 biggest questions on my mind would be like, kind of understanding. Well, I mean, the Avatar thing's not that difficult. Like, I get it. I think I'm more curious onto why there's a split personality. Right? Like, and like, how long has this been going on? Right? Because Moon Knight is, in a way, very almost feels like this Batman-esque type character, right? So would he not always want to be Moon Knight and go?
Yeah, I'm trying to
be in that persona. Like, why does Mark not want to be like the main? And maybe it's just Khonshu has like all of these plans, and it's just like he needs a way to kind of slow that down. I don't know.
If I can recall, I'm pretty sure Khonshu is not the best. He's like, he like wants vengeance.
See, Batman.
And so yeah, it's like Batman, but like dark Batman. So he like kills everybody and like is kind of a menace. And
it's come I think, is it like that person looked at me the wrong way, so just take him out?
Pretty much, yeah. He's not a nice guy, and I think at some point Mark switches to like, hey, like, we should probably not kill all these people. And Khonshu's like, no, we're gonna kill them. I mean, that's my thing, and I'm gonna kill them. And so there's like a struggle there. And I also think in the earlier comics, post Moon Knight Batman version, and more this like mystical god Moon Knight version, I believe when Khonshu enters Mark's mind, he splits it into a bunch of different personalities. And so all of those kind of like come and go. I don't know if there's like a reason for it. I don't know if like Mark is in full control. Maybe Steven in this universe has like the most control. So that's why Steven's in charge the majority of the time. Or maybe it is just Mark trying to like delay whatever Khonshu's plans are and slow down the end of the world or something.
Does Moon Knight ever get the Ebony Blade?
That I don't know.
That would be an interesting twist, because like essentially the Ebony Blade like is like a dark powered weapon, so it's kind of like gonna pull out that evil in you. So I wonder if at one point Mark had it and it was kind of like, this is too much, we gotta like not be so evil.
Yeah. So
Or maybe it was the fear of like maybe they're going to tie in like the love interest. Maybe
yeah,
it
I'm
was getting
interested to see who Layla is and how she fits into this.
yeah.
She seemed upset that Mark hadn't called her or told her what's going on, so it only would make sense that maybe Mark is running from something and hiding out as Steven. I mean, I keep waiting for him to go to work and them say something like it's only your like third month here or something like that, so it would like break that illusion that he's been doing this for a really long time and be like, "Oh, something's not right. He hasn't been here as long as he thinks he's been here."
Yeah, like one thing we didn't really cover, we kind of skipped over the part was like we're talking like Steven is this kind of almost socially awkward type person, but has a date. And even like his boss was like very surprised by it. And we get a moment where like he's off in a whole nother country or whatever and fighting. And then now he's back and he's going to his date. But yet, what was it like 2 days? Two days have passed.
It was Sunday and he thought it was Friday.
It was Friday.
And it was like, how often has that happened?
Yeah.
Where he's lost multiple days. So,
yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited. I'm excited to find out. I really hope that the next episode isn't backstory, only because, like, I don't know. Don't waste my time. Like, I'd rather them explain it.
I know 6 episodes is tight. So I mean, they could split and do if they could do one episode and half of it's like, just do both of their backstories in one episode. But traditionally, that's not usually how things go.
Yeah, they'll drag it
it's
out.
like, they're going to drag it out, and it's going to be like 4, 5, and 6 are going to be all the action.
Yeah, and 6 is going to be like 4 episodes crammed into one, and it'll be too fast. And okay.
Did y'all watch the interview with Ethan Hawke on like all the rumors?
I didn't get a chance to.
No, not yet.
It's fun. It's fun because they basically he just like I think it was with Fallon, and he just goes through like here are the questions or rumors from the internet, and I'm trying to remember. Oh, there's one. Oh, I wish I can't remember it off the top of my head. Where like Ethan plays with it a lot. He just kind of like looks at the audience, looks at the camera, and like he never says yes or no. So I don't know.
Well, maybe we'll find out next week.
Maybe.
Well, I think.
Oh, I think it was Blade. I think the question was like, does Blade make an appearance?
I feel like it would make sense. I mean, I'm not gonna get my hopes up, but I think that would fit.
Yeah,
definitely.
It feels like the most likely cameo to me, but of course, the one I really want is Scarlet Witch, so we get a mini in secret reunion.
Yeah.
Time will tell. We only have 5 more weeks of this, so.
I know.
I
mean, there's no telling.
Have Kit Harington show up though, since it's his family that's connected with the Ebony Blade, and they might just sneak him in there.
Well, that's what I was thinking early on, because I was like, wait, isn't this museum where Kit Harington worked? But we looked that up, and
I don't think this is, but I mean, it could be in this world. They could be connected in some way.
Yeah.
I'm thinking like Kit Harington will, or Dane Whitman will make an appearance. But the question is will
Kit Harington as himself?
Kit Harington as himself. But could this be our first actual like look at Black Knight, or will we just see Dane Whitman again, or will the Eternal show up?
I don't think the Eternals will show up. I think that they probably are like, oh, we should probably put them on a back burner for a while. I think that
maybe Bruce Banner will show up. We don't know.
I think that Dane would probably show up, but just as Dane. I don't think that we'll get him as Black Knight.
Oh man, are they gonna pull like Dane? We'll see Dane Whitman, and then in the background we're gonna hear Marshall Ali's voices played again.
Well, that's the thing is like if we get Blade in this, I highly doubt we're gonna get Blade doing anything. I think that we may get him as sort of like a here he is, but he's not gonna be like fighting vampires or anything.
That was one of the other questions that was asked to Ethan was like, is your character's actually a vampire? And he was like, dude, if that was true, that'd be awesome. He's like, I'd want to play that character.
Well, he could be lying through his teeth and he is a vampire, so
who knows? Who knows?
We'll know soon, yeah. Well, definitely join us next week when we're going to talk about episode 2 and dive further into this mystery. And I think that there's really only one-liner that I could pull from this episode that I was like, well, I want to say that. And that has to be the idiot's back. So with that, see you guys next week.